I never meant for it to happen, I whispered, my hands shaking as I deleted another text from Victoria. She's my boss's wife. This could destroy everything. But when she looked at me across that conference room, her blue eyes filled with longing, I recognized in myself. I knew we were both already lost. My first day as executive assistant to Richard Coleman, CEO of Coleman & Associates, I thought my biggest challenge would be managing his impossible schedule. I never imagined it would be trying not to fall in love with his wife. Victoria Coleman walked into the office that Monday morning like she owned the place, which technically she did. Shoulder-length wavy blonde hair, light olive Caucasian skin with this elegant glow, tall and graceful in a way that made every head turn. Her blue eyes swept the office before landing on me behind my new desk. "You must be Emma," she said, extending a manicured hand. Richard's told me so much about his new assistant. Her voice had this warm, slightly husky quality that made my professional smile falter slightly. When our hands touched, I felt this unexpected flutter in my stomach that I quickly dismissed as first-day nerves. "It's wonderful to meet you, Mrs. Coleman," I managed, trying not to notice how her blue eyes seemed to study my face with more interest than a casual introduction warranted. Over the next few weeks, Victoria became a regular presence in the office. She'd stop by to drop off lunch for Richard, who was always too busy to eat with her. I'd watch her face fall slightly when he'd barely look up from his computer, accepting the food with a distracted "thanks, babe" before diving back into spreadsheets. "He works too much," she'd say to me, lingering by my desk longer than necessary. "Always has. I sometimes wonder if he remembers he has a wife." "I'm sorry," I'd reply, not sure what else to say. "Marriage must be difficult when work demands so much attention." Victoria would smile sadly, her blue eyes meeting mine with an intensity that made my heart skip. "It is. Sometimes I feel more like a business partner than a wife. We barely talk anymore, except about his schedule or social obligations. These conversations became more frequent, more personal, and I found myself looking forward to them more than I should have. The first time Victoria invited me to lunch, I told myself it was purely professional networking. "Richard's in back-to-back meetings," she said, appearing at my desk with 2 coffee cups, "and I hate eating alone. Would you join me?" We went to a small cafe near the office, and for an hour Victoria wasn't the CEO's wife. She was just this intelligent, funny woman who shared my love of travel photography and obscure documentaries. When she laughed at my stories about college mishaps, her whole face lit up in a way I'd never seen in the office. "You know," Victoria said as we walked back to the building, "I can't remember the last time I had a conversation that wasn't about Richard's business or our social calendar. You're easy to talk to, Emma." The way she said my name, soft and thoughtful, made something warm unfurl in my chest. "I feel the same way," I admitted before I could stop myself. We paused outside the office building, and for a moment the busy street around us seemed to fade. Victoria looked like she wanted to say something else, but then Richard's voice called from the lobby, asking where I'd disappeared to. After that lunch, everything shifted. Victoria's visits to the office became longer, more frequent. She'd find excuses to stop by my desk, bringing coffee, asking about my weekend plans, sharing articles she thought I'd find interesting. Richard rarely noticed these interactions, too absorbed in his work to pay attention to his wife's growing friendship with his assistant. "Emma, could you help me with something?" Victoria asked one Thursday afternoon. "Richard's laptop is acting up at home, and I need to send some emails for the charity gala." Victoria's house was everything I'd expected. Elegant, spacious, perfectly decorated, but it felt cold, unlived in, like a magazine spread rather than a home. "Richard's hardly here anymore," Victoria said, noticing me looking around. "Sometimes I rattle around in here like a ghost." She led me to the home office, and as I worked on the laptop, she sat nearby, watching me with an attention that made me hyper-aware of every movement. "You're very good at this," she said softly. "Richard's lucky to have found you." "I think you're the one who's good at things," I replied, looking up from the screen. This charity gala you're organizing sounds incredible. Victoria's smile was soft, almost vulnerable. It gives me something to focus on. Purpose, I suppose. Richard used to be interested in the causes I cared about, but now, she trailed off, her blue eyes sad. Before I could think about it, I reached out and touched her hand. He doesn't know what he's missing, I said quietly. The air between us suddenly felt charged, electric. Victoria stared at our joined hands for a long moment before looking up at me. "Emma," she said, and there was something in her voice that made my heart race. "I should probably—" "Don't," she interrupted softly. "Don't say you should go. I know you should. I know I should want you to. But I don't." We were sitting very close now, and I could smell her perfume, see the gold flecks in her blue eyes. "Victoria, this is complicated," I whispered. "You're married. You're my boss's wife." "I know," she said, "but I haven't felt this alive in years." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment, the way Victoria had looked at me, the electricity I'd felt when she touched my hand. This was dangerous territory. Career suicide if anyone found out. Richard Coleman was powerful, influential. If he discovered his assistant was developing feelings for his wife, I'd be blacklisted from every decent job in the city. But when I closed my eyes, all I could see were Victoria's blue eyes, the loneliness in them, that matched something in myself. The next morning at work felt surreal. Richard was his usual demanding self, firing off instructions and complaints about various projects. "Emma, reschedule the Morrison meeting, and call Victoria. Tell her I'll be late for dinner again." I dialed Victoria's number with shaking hands. "Hello, Emma," she answered, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "Let me guess, Richard's working late again?" "I'm sorry," I said, trying to keep my voice professional. "He asked me to let you know about dinner." "Of course he did," Victoria sighed. "Emma, are you free for lunch today?" Lunch became our routine. 3 times a week, Victoria would text me, and we'd slip away to small cafes where no one from Richard's business circle would recognize us. We talked about everything: her abandoned marketing career, my photography dreams, the books we loved, the places we wanted to travel. Victoria was brilliant, funny, passionate about art and social causes. Watching her talk about things she cared about was mesmerizing. "You light up when you talk about photography," she said one afternoon. "The way your green eyes get brighter. Richard never talks about anything with that kind of passion anymore." "What was your marriage like in the beginning?" I asked, immediately regretting the personal question. But Victoria didn't seem to mind. "Different," she said thoughtfully. "We met at a networking event. He was charming, successful, seemed to have this clear vision for his life. I thought I wanted to be part of that vision." She stirred her coffee absently, but somewhere along the way, I became an accessory to his success, rather than a partner in it. The perfect corporate wife who looks good at events and doesn't make demands. Her blue eyes met mine. I forgot who I was before I became Mrs. Coleman. "Who were you?" I asked quietly. Victoria's smile was soft, almost shy. "Someone who believed in things, who wanted to change the world through marketing campaigns for nonprofits. Someone who stayed up all night talking about ideas and dreams." She paused. "Someone who felt things deeply instead of just going through the motions." The way she was looking at me made my heart pound. "You still are that person," I said. "I can see her when we talk. She's still there." Victoria reached across the table and took my hand. "You see me," she whispered. "Really see me. Do you know how long it's been since someone looked at me like that?" That afternoon, back at the office, I could barely concentrate. Richard was in meetings most of the day, giving me time to process what was happening between Victoria and me. This wasn't just friendly conversation anymore. The looks, the touches, the way we lingered over every interaction, we were crossing lines that couldn't be uncrossed. When my phone buzzed with a text from Victoria, my heart jumped. "Thank you for seeing me today. For seeing Emmy. Can we talk tonight?" Richard's working late again. I stared at the message for 10 minutes before typing back. Yes. Victoria picked me up outside my apartment that evening, looking nervous and beautiful in a simple black dress. I thought we could go somewhere we won't run into anyone Richard knows, she said as I got in her car. We drove to a small wine bar across town, dimly lit and intimate. Emma, Victoria said once we'd settled into a corner booth, I need to be honest about something. These lunches, our conversations, they've become the best part of my day. You've become the best part of my day. My mouth went dry. Victoria, I feel the same way. But this is impossible, she finished. I know. You work for my husband. I'm married. There are 1,000 reasons why this is wrong. But, I prompted, my heart racing. Victoria took a shaky breath. But I can't stop thinking about you, about how you make me laugh. How you listen like my words actually matter. How you see me as more than just Richard's wife or a pretty accessory. She reached across the table for my hand. Emma, I think I'm falling for you, and I don't know what to do about it. The admission hung between us, changing everything. I'm falling for you too, I whispered. Have been for weeks. But Victoria, this could destroy everything. Your marriage, my career, both our reputations. I know, Victoria said, her blue eyes bright with unshed tears. Believe me, I've thought about all of that. But Emma, I haven't felt this alive, this happy, this much like myself in years. Is it selfish of me to want that? To want you? Before I could answer, she was leaning across the small table, her hand cupping my cheek. Tell me you don't want this too, and I'll walk away. I'll go back to being Richard's wife, and you can be his assistant, and we'll pretend this never happened. But I couldn't say that, because it would be a lie. When Victoria kissed me in that dimly lit wine bar, soft and tentative and full of months of suppressed longing, I felt like I was coming home to myself. Everything I'd been afraid to want, afraid to feel, crystallized in that moment. I can't pretend this never happened, I whispered against her lips. I don't want to. Victoria's smile was radiant and terrified at the same time. Then we'll figure it out together, she said. Whatever happens, whatever we have to face, we'll do it together. Some love, I realized as she held my face in her hands, is worth the risk. Some connections are worth fighting for, even when the odds are stacked against you. And sometimes the most beautiful things grow in the most impossible places.